The air is cool and still, as if the world is holding its breath before dawn. Gentle light filters through woven reeds, painting soft patterns on the earthen floor. Somewhere beyond the walls, a faint chorus of birds greets the rising sun, their song drifting in through the open doorway. Slowly the hush of camp life stirs, the low murmur of voices, the rustle of cotton tunics, a steady rhythm of footsteps on compacted soil. Each breath feels heavy with the weight of yesterday's labors and the promise of the long journey ahead. In this calm, we begin our path into the hidden arteries of the Inca Empire, where stone and sweat converge high in the mountains. Under the vast expanse of sky, peaks slip in and out of clouds like drifting ships. Their slopes, steep and solemn, cradle narrow ribbons of carved rock. For the men and women assigned to the imperial roads, these paths are lifelines and prisons both, guiding the living pulse of a sprawling civilization. Today we trace their footsteps along soaring ridges and sheer drops, feeling each inhalation sharpened by altitude, each heartbeat echoing against ancient stone. We move gently, as if walking within a dream, our mind open to every whisper of history and every hushed secret the mountains keep. Beneath our feet lies a network of trails that tied together distant valleys, connecting sun-baked deserts to frosted glaciers. Soft dust drifts across switchbacks, undisturbed for centuries except by the occasional passing llama. Moss creeps into joints between stones, carpeting the causeway in muted green. In the distance, a condensation of mist swirls around a gateway of rock, urging us forward. There is no hurry here, only the steady unfolding of time, measured in footsteps, in labored breaths, in the echo of shoes against carved sandstone. Allow the quiet to settle around you like a shawl. Let your shoulders uncoil, your eyelids grow heavy, your thoughts slow to the gentle pace of this ancient road. Drift with us now into the first of 4 unwinding chapters, where we will sense the tundra wind, taste the thin air, and witness the unyielding discipline demanded by these highland highways. Each moment is an invitation to rest, to follow a single stone, to feel the pulse of history move beneath your toes. Step softly, friend, and let us begin. High on a ridge above the swirling valley, the road narrows to barely a span of stone and earth. Beneath your feet, the surface is uneven, a mosaic of flagstones, some tilted and cracked, others smoothed by generations of passing feet. The air here is thin, each breath a quiet effort, drawn in and released in soft, measured sighs. A faint wind carries a scent of damp rock and distant pines, cool against flushed cheeks. Every step asks attention. To avoid a slippery edge, to sense a sudden shift in the path, to keep moving forward despite the tug of fatigue. Along this stretch, teams of the Mita labor once toiled, bound by the state's demand for mandatory service, their shoulders bent beneath loads of raw quarry stone, their sandals worn to fragile threads by the unrelenting ground. The stillness now belies the steady murmur of voices and wooden tools striking rock. Imagine the rhythmic percussion of bronze chisels tapping in unison, each echo resonating against the mountainside. Close your eyes and feel that pulse. A quiet, persistent hammering, shaping every slab into a stepping stone on this aerial thoroughfare. The landscape here is immense and silent. Peaks rise like monoliths through drifting fog, their summits lost to swirling white. In the valleys below, rivers wind like threads of silver. Look east, and you might glimpse terraced fields, each level a testament to human tenacity. Farther on, solitary cacti cling to ledges, their spiny silhouettes etched against the sky. Each sight inspires a soft awe, as if the world has paused to honor the road carved by countless hands. Pause a moment and notice the weight of the sky above. Its vastness seems to press down, urging slow, deep breaths. Feel the chill that seeps into your chest, inviting stillness. With each inhalation, draw in the memory of those laborers, their steady resolve, the comradeship formed in shared hardship, the quiet satisfaction in fitting one stone flush against another. With each exhalation, release tension, letting it flow down the mountainside like mist. Along this exposed crest, the path occasionally widens into small ledges, just enough space to set down a load, to crack open a maize cake, to drink brackish water from a gourd cup. The light here changes gently as clouds drift overhead, shifting shadows from pale gray to soft pink. In these moments of respite, you might sense the laborer's private rituals, a whispered prayer to the mountain spirits, the rubbing of sore joints with scented oils, the passing of a simple wafer of dried potatoes. Each gesture a small grace amid the demanding altitude. Now, imagine stepping off the stone onto rougher earth, following a switchback that hugs the mountain's flank. Every turn reveals a new vista, the road trailing behind like a ribbon, the valley floor distant and hazy. The silence is profound, broken only by a distant call of a hawk or the faint trickle of a hidden spring. Leaning into the wind, you find a steady rhythm in your stride, a flow that matches the ancient heartbeat of these high passes. Let your mind drift with that rhythm, carried gently forward along the path, one measured step at a time. Before the first light reaches the capital's ramparts, the air in the province of Anta is cool and still, tinged with the earthy scent of dew-soaked terraces. Gentle mists drift through fields of maize and squash, folding the hills into layers of pale green. Here, in a modest adobe house framed by willow trees, a boy named Kusi Yupanqui gazes toward the distant silhouette of Cusco. His breath forms faint clouds in the morning chill, and each exhale carries a soft promise of the day's unfolding. Kusi's earliest memories are woven with the hum of daily life, the rhythmic pounding of dried potatoes in a mortar, the low bleating of llamas tethered nearby, the quiet murmur of his mother's prayer as she watched smoke curl from an earthen stove. He would press his small hand to the rough wall at dawn, feeling its cool weight, and tiptoe across stone floors strewn with woven mats. The world felt vast then, but it was shaped by familiar comforts, the taste of sweet potato boiled in a clay bowl, the warm embrace of woolen cushions, the steady presence of brothers and cousins sleeping in a row. When Kusi's father, a minor lord in the valley, summoned him at dusk, the air would thrum with candlelight and soft conversation. He learned protocols without haste, how to bow low before elders, how to fold his tunic's edge with respect, how to channel a quiet dignity. Under his father's measured gaze, he watched the clan's advisors seated on reed mats, their hands moving in gentle gestures as they spoke of crop cycles and tribute. Each lesson seeped into Kusi's spirit like water into parched soil. As seasons turned, Kusi's stature lengthened, and with it grew a curious spark in his dark eyes. He would slip away to shaded groves to practice archery, bow drawn taut as a whisper of wind, the arrow released into the hush. He discovered that stillness breeds focus, and that a single moment of calm can straighten a wavering aim. Around him the land rose and fell in quilted patterns, terraces rippling down slopes, each stone a marker of care. Under that heavy, sun-soaked sky, the boy's name shifted, and he became known as Pachacuti, Earthshaker, though the title felt distant from the gentle rhythms of his childhood. He rose at dawn to oversee small duties, inspecting storehouses where quinoa and maize were kept, ensuring water channels ran clear and cool. He tasted each gourd of chicha with a discerning palate, noting its sweetness, its warmth. In these intimate tasks, he honed patience and awareness. In the quiet lull of Anta's evenings, as candle flames danced across earthen walls, Pachacuti would trace the sky's shifting colors. From rose to indigo, the heavens deepened, and he imagined paths beyond the valley. His thoughts drifted like the smoke from his mother's hearth, unhurried, searching. In that gentle stillness, the first stirrings of a future leader took root, carried on quiet breaths and soft footsteps along the edges of dawn. At the edge of a narrow plateau, a hush falls across the line of carriers as dusk softens the mountainside. Their worn sandals rest beside scattered tufts of grass, each pair frayed at the heel, leather threads loose and muted in color. A single lantern, carved from gourd and fueled by llama fat, casts a trembling glow over trembling hands. In this stillness, the overseer's silhouette appears, long and steady, against the pale sky, his shadow reaching toward the laborers like a silent summons. A man lags behind the rest, his gait uneven, breath coming in shallow whispers. The chill air brushes against his cheeks, carrying a faint scent of pine, resin, and earth. He presses a trembling palm to his lower back, eyes hooded by pain and exhaustion. The overseer approaches without haste, each step measured, his cloak swaying with the quiet grace of someone accustomed to command. There is no shout, only a soft word of reprimand that hangs, almost inaudible, in the silent air. With a deft hand, the overseer loosens a blade from his belt, its edge catching the last light of sunset. The man kneels on rough rock, heart pounding like a distant drum, and the world narrows to the cool flash of metal and the whisper of stone dust. The overseer's movements are calm, rhythmical. A small slice here, a gentle brush there, each touch measured to punish without haste. You might hear the faintest hiss of linen as skin parts, a muted exhale, the soft wetness of blood mingling with adrenaline and sweat. Beneath the surface of pain, time seems to slow. Every heartbeat pulses through raw nerves, echoing against hard stone. Yet the wind remains steady, untroubled, sweeping across open land, lifting stray hairs and carrying away even the smallest sounds. The man's breath rises and falls in shallow waves. The overseer applies a paste of crushed coca leaves and local herbs, their scent herbal and cooling, tempered with a bitter tang of medicinal ash. Morning breaks with pale pink light that stirs the valley below. The man rises, soles freshly seared, each step a muted testament to endurance. His companions slip him a small portion of quinoa mixed with llama fat, the grains slow and chewy, oil coating his tongue and giving warmth to his chest. He wraps his feet again in strips of clean cloth, the fabric soft and forgiving, a fragile shield against the rocky ground. As the column resumes its steady march toward distant summits, the man's strides are cautious but unbroken. Around him the mountains stand silent and ancient, their peaks half lost in drifting clouds. With each footfall, The memory of pain recedes into the steady cadence of the road. The wind carries faint echoes of past laborers, urging him onward, guiding him along the stone spine of the empire, one slow, deliberate step at a time. At the edge of a gentle slope, where the trail widens into a sheltered courtyard, stands a royal tambo, one of the empire's hostels, reserved for nobles and trusted envoys. Its walls of well-fitted stone rise without mortar, each block cut with precise care, yet soft by creeping moss that cushions the joints. Above, a canopy of totora reeds filters sunlight into warm, dappled patterns on the flagstones. A hush envelops the space, broken only by the faint drip of condensation from thatch and the hushed rustle of textiles draped along carved niches. Inside, wooden beams loom overhead, their surfaces polished by centuries of smoke and careful tending. Against one wall, low platforms of woven straw and llama wool lie ready for distinguished travelers, each covered with blankets dyed in rich indigo and ochre. The scent of burnt straw mingles with the aromatic perfume of toasted maize and toasted kai fat, warming the cool air. Nearby, trays of chacho beans glisten with the glaze of chicha bracken, and baskets of figs and dried peppers lend muted reds and purples to the soft morning glow. In a shaded corner, attendants move with deliberate calm. They carry gourds brimming with foaming chicha, pouring each cup in measured arcs that catch the light like liquid gold. The sound is a gentle cascade, a quiet invitation. With each sip, visiting lords feel the subtle warmth spread through their limbs, a comfort against long hours on the road. Their sandals rest idly by the entryway, soles crafted from sturdy llama hide, polished and awaiting the next journey. Along the opposite wall, an alcove holds the peocha, the imperial store of luxury goods. Brightly woven cloths of alpaca fleece, threaded with gold dust and dyed in the deepest lapis blues, hang in layered folds. They sway ever so slightly in the whisper of a breeze that slips through a narrow window. Nearby, a small wooden chest holds amber beads and polished turquoise, tokens brought as offerings or reminders of distant provinces. The glint of metal and jewel lingers like a promise, soft against the hush of stone. In the courtyard beyond, a row of sheep and llamas rests under a pergola of cedar beams, chosen women tending their wool with steady fingers. Each animal stands calmly, accustomed to the presence of nobles, who pause to select fresh fleece for cloaks and ornaments. Invisible to most, hostages from allied chiefs lie within inner chambers, young, well cared for, taught the empire's language and customs. Their footsteps echo along silent corridors, voices low as they learn the songs and prayers that bind them to this distant capital. As the sun arcs higher, stray shafts of light warm the tambo's stones. You might lean against a cool wall, feeling its quiet solidity beneath your hand, and inhale the mingled fragrances of grain, smoke, and dyes. There is no urgency here, only the soft pulse of a network that winds through mountains, linking ruler to subject, valley to valley. Let the gentle hush of this royal hostel settle around you, a serene snapshot of privilege and power woven seamlessly into the empire's silent roads. At dawn, pale light slips over the horizon and finds the laborers gathered around smoldering braziers of stone, their embers glowing faintly against the chill. The air tastes of ash and damp wool, curling into lungs like a soft sigh. In small clay bowls, each man and woman receives a ration of toasted quinoa, its grains swollen and warm, glistening with a thin sheen of llama fat. The scent is gentle, nutty warmth tempered by a faint smokiness. Fingers wrap around the bowl's rim, careful not to burn, lifting spoonfuls of tender grains. Each bite is slow, measured, as if the grains themselves carry the memory of yesterday's toil. Around them the mountains stand draped in dawn mist, silent witnesses to the simple ritual of sustenance. A faint breeze scents the air with nearby pines and the distant sparkle of highland streams. Conversation is hushed, voices low and steady, sharing quiet reassurances. One worker hums a lullaby from childhood, the melody soft and wavering, carried on the breath of the morning. It mingles with the gentle clang of metal scoops and the murmur of water in a hollowed gourd. The quinoa porridge is not only nourishment, but a bond between comrades. The taste of fatty oil clings to the tongue, lingering long after each swallow. Men pace softly, pressing cloth to chapped lips, while women unwrap bundles of maize cakes, their rough surfaces a tactile contrast to the porridge's softness. A man pauses to crumble a small loaf into his palms, feeling its coarseness. As he chews, his jaw moves in slow circles, grounding him in the present moment. When the first heat of morning touches their shoulders, the braziers are banked, and the workers rise from their huddled forms. Each strap is adjusted, bundles of stone resettled on strong backs. The rattling of llama hair in woven carrying frames mingles with the soft grunt of exertion. Without haste, they form a line along the rocky track, feet sinking briefly into loam and gravel. The smell of warming earth drifts upward, promising the sun's gentle rise. Each footfall presses quinoa-fueled strength into the trail, a steady rhythm of contact and release. The guides move among them, sliding small pouches of coarse salt and dried potatoes from carved niches. They share the extras in muted gestures of solidarity, hands passing provisions quietly, smiles exchanged despite weary eyes. A moment of warmth flickers in each heart, easing the ache that lingers in tired muscles. As the column resumes its upward climb, the taste of the morning meal remains a comforting echo in every breath. The path steepens, yet every step feels anchored in the shared ritual of the first light. The wind, now rising, carries away any residue of pain, leaving only the muted cadence of human perseverance against the vast, sleeping landscape. Before dawn's first light, the landscape around Cusco slumbers beneath a pale veil of mist. Across the city's outer walls, the air is cool and still, carrying the scent of wet earth and smoking torches. Cusiyopancinal Pachacuti stands upon a terraced slope, wrapped in a cloak of alpaca fleece. He feels the soft tremor of the ground as silent columns of soldiers shift, each breath exhaled in unison like the rising wind. The river in the valley murmurs its own steady rhythm, reassuring him that life flows beyond these stones. As the sun lifts its head, torchlight fades to golden shafts that slant across shattered battlements. Soldiers move in hushed patterns, their obsidian-tipped spears reflecting gentle glints of light. Flutes and shells sound a static drone, not a call to arms, but a measured heartbeat echoing through narrow streets. You can imagine the soft scrape of sandals on flagstones and the low murmur of orders uttered beneath broad-brimmed hats. There is no urgency here, only the unfolding of an ancient strategy that flows like water through channels carved in rock. Across the inner courtyard, campfires burn low, sending thin wisps of smoke into the crisp air. Warriors pause to sharpen blades with stones coarse and pale, the friction releasing fine gray dust. Each stroke is slow and deliberate, the cadence of metal against sharpened rock a quiet mantra. Nearby, lines of archers string taut bowstrings, the fibers singing a whisper that drifts away on the breeze. In this serene preparation, Pachacuti studies the patterns of the enemy shaded by woven screens, feeling the subtle shift of dawn light on their shields. When the first volley of arrows flies, it is not a crack of violence, but a soft rustle against the sky. Feathers scatter like petals caught in a gentle wind. Beneath the walls, opposing forces respond with matching grace, sending their own shot in mirrored arcs. Each arrow lands with a muted thud in packed soil, stirring tiny puffs of dust that drift upward like dandelion seeds. The sound is measured, almost musical, woven into the valley's breath, as if the mountains themselves conduct the exchange. In time, the walls yield stone by stone under a steady pressure of methodical labor. Pachacuti watches as engineers guide rolling logs beneath fallen slabs, each movement as precise as a dancer's step. There is an almost meditative hush to the labor, the wheeze of hemp ropes strained to capacity, the soft creak of timber supports, the distant lap of river water against mossy rocks. With each piece of masonry displaced, the city's heart opens wider, revealing terraced plazas and silent temples. Beyond Cusco's gates, Pachacuti turns his gaze southward toward the long ribbon of coastal plains that promise new horizons in Chile. The road dips through fragrant eucalyptus groves, and the air warms to the scent of sun-baked sand and salt spray. Caravans of llamas sway in the afternoon light, their bells chiming a slow, crystalline song. As the trail leads across wide river beds and through marshy glens, each step presses you deeper into a landscape both strange and serene, carrying the memory of conquest, soft by the hush of wind and water beneath an endless sky. High above the Urubamba River, pale dawn light filters through drifting clouds, illuminating the stepped terraces of Machu Picchu in soft, silvery hues. Each stone block seems to glow with a gentle inner warmth, as if the mountain itself were breathing. The polished surfaces fit together so precisely that even a blade of grass cannot slip between them. Under your fingertips, the rock feels cool and smooth, its joints unbroken by mortar, a silent testament to vanished hands that coaxed these massive stones into place. A low wind stirs the grasses atop the ridges, carrying the scent of damp moss and orchid blossoms. You trace your gaze along an arching wall where trapezoidal windows frame distant peaks. In the morning light, the openings hold faint silhouettes of Machu Picchu beyond, each stone edge perfectly angled to catch the sun at solstice. Some say this was no simple royal retreat, but an astronomical observatory, calibrated by sight lines that mark the cycle of seasons. Yet here, in the hush of dawn, the distinction fades. Whether throne or temple, the stones radiate quiet purpose. Inside the urban core, narrow alleys wind between temple stones and residential niches. Here the craftsmanship is most uncanny, locks bearing chisel marks so small they could only have been made by delicate bronze tools and practiced hands. Imagine the laborers, perched on wooden scaffolds high above steep slopes, guiding each slab into position with ropes of woven llama hair. They nudged and tapped, slid and shimmed, until every surface aligned in seamless harmony. Their methods remain partly unknown, hidden in the hush of centuries. In recent years, thin drones have begun to whisper through these sacred spaces, hovering above overgrown terraces. Their propellers generate a muted vibration that blends with the wind. They scan with lasers, LiDAR pulses that ripple across stone and soil, revealing networks of hidden platforms buried beneath dense undergrowth. As you feel the gentle hum of these modern visitors, you sense a bridge between past and present, technology unveiling traces of long-buried pathways, while respecting the silence that cloaks them. At midday, shafts of sunlight slant across the Intihuatana stone, igniting its angled facets in a soft glow. Each shift of light across its chiseled surface seems choreographed, as if the mountain itself conducts a slow, celestial ballet. Standing here, you inhale the cool mountain air and imagine the engineers observing such plays of light, marking time not by clocks, but by shadow and stone. In this serene communion of earth and sky, their vanished voices speak in stillness, inviting you to rest in the quiet mystery of Machu Picchu. In a secluded chamber of the royal tambo, the chosen women stir the morning light like painters on a vast canvas. Their looms stand in silent rows, each frame hewn from cedar beams darkened by smoke and time. At their feet lie piles of alpaca fleece, soft as drifting clouds dyed in hues of deep indigo and blood-red cochineal. The air here is perfumed with the gentle tang of fermenting berries and the earthy sweetness of wet wool. With slow, deliberate motions, their fingers move through threads glimmering with flecks of gold dust, each strand catching stray rays through narrow windows, scattering them like tiny constellations. These women, the Akla, are chosen for quiet strength and unwavering devotion. They rise before dawn's first glow, their breath a soft exhalation that stirs the loom's warp threads. Each warp and weft intersects in patterns passed down through generations, symbols of the sun's path, the mountain spirits, and the empire's sacred order. Listen closely, and you might hear the faint murmur of their prayers woven into every stitch, a whispered invocation to Pachamama, a soft plea for the emperor's long life, a serene promise of loyalty. The textiles they create are more than cloth. They are living declarations of power. Gold dust, pounded fine from sunlit nuggets, is brushed onto finished garments. Under hand-woven borders of turquoise and carmine, tiny spirals of shining metal form imperial sigils. When held aloft in festival light, these textiles flicker with a warmth that seems to pulse in time with a distant drumbeat. A woolen mantle may weigh little on the shoulders, yet its presence fills a hall with quiet majesty, announcing its wearer's rank without a word. Each piece is destined for elite use, gifts to honored allies, adornments for the emperor's closest kin, ceremonial robes for those who guide the empire's fate. Provincial lords, arriving at Tambu after long journeys, receive these cloths with solemn gratitude. They trace the delicate patterns with calloused fingertips, feeling the contrast between rough warp threads and golden highlights. In that moment, the road's hardships soften a fleeting warmth in memory of cold nights and steep passes. When the chosen women finish their work, they roll each piece onto cylindrical cores of polished wood. The textiles are then stored in dimly lit chambers, where baskets of aromatics lie nestled among them, dried lavender sprigs, crushed huaruro seeds, and calendula petals. The fragrance seeps into every fiber, preserving the cloth and carrying a final blessing of repose. Here, in stillness, power rests folded, awaiting the moment it will be unfurled in pageantry and ceremony. Outside, the tambo's courtyard hums with distant travelers, each unaware of the fragile splendor that lies just within the walls. As the sun arcs toward noon, shafts of light slant across the stone floor, illuminating loose threads that glint like stardust. In this gentle hush, feel the soft resonance of a civilization bound by cloth and devotion, where each woven motif carries a silent story of loyalty, artistry, and quiet reverence for the road that binds them all. The sun climbs higher now, its rays striking the narrow causeway with a soft, persistent warmth. Underfoot, the stones radiate heat, sending tremors of comfort through tired feet. A column of laborers presses onward, each carrying a slab of limestone balanced across their shoulders. Their breaths come in long, even rhythms, paired with the soft scrape of sandals against sun-warmed rock. Every inhale tastes faintly of dust and resin. Every exhale drifts skyward, dissolving into the pale blue air. Ahead, the road curves around a hairpin bend that overlooks a yawning chasm. Here, there was never room for a written path, only the worn scars of tools and the quiet persistence of human hands. Workers set to carving a shelf for passing loads, their bronze chisels humming as they tap against the stone face, coaxing away only the smallest fragments. Tiny chips shower down the cliff, disappearing before they reach the mist-cloaked valley below. A steady tap-tap-tap resonates like distant rain, each strike deliberate, each pause a moment to feel the earth's slow heartbeat. Along the sheer drop, ropes of braided llama hair stretch between wooden stakes driven into fissures. Teams guide the coils, testing tension with gentle pulls. Then, with hushed coordination, they slide a large boulder into place, edging it toward the cliff's edge as though offering a silent prayer to the mountains. The stone shifts with a soft groan, settling into its new cradle. A single droplet of sweat traverses a worker's temple, catching sunlight and glinting like a tiny star against sun-darkened skin. Midday stillness is pierced by a faint call. A straggler lags, torso stooped beneath a heavy load. The overseer appears, his approach unhurried. He carries a woven sling of leather thongs tipped with obsidian flakes. With a swift, soft motion, he taps the man's calf. No shout, just the sharp whisper of sharp points on coarse fabric. The man straightens, reclaims his burden, and steps forward. His sandals scrape stones in a muted chorus, rejoining the line without haste. When the work is done, the group pauses on a widened turn in the trail. They set down their stones in neat rows, the blocks forming an unbroken ribbon of pale rock. A breeze stirs, carrying with it cool scents from pine forests far below. Fingers rub aching shoulders, and thin strands of coca leaf are rolled between teeth, releasing a mild warmth that seeps through muscles. A few drop to their knees, stretching, pressing palms into the rough surface, as if drawing strength from the mountain itself. Beyond this temporary rest, the path continues, winding into shifting shadows where the sun's glare softens. Each step forward carries the faint echo of chisels, the memory of heated stones, the quiet discipline that molds both road and worker into enduring passage. With renewed stillness, the laborers rise, adjust their straps, and follow the ribbon of pale limestone as it snakes onward one slow, gentle step at a time. At sunrise, Pachacuti walks the soft line where a newly terraced valley meets the misty riverbank. Dew clings in fine beads to the tops of maize stalks, each leaf a tender arc of green that trembles in the pale light. Beneath his sandals, the earth feels cool and yielding a welcome contrast to the hard stone of Cusco's plazas. He pauses at the edge of a state-administered farm where teams of meadow workers tend neat furrows of quinoa and barley. The air here is scented with damp soil and the faint, sweet aroma of ripening grains. Nearby, a gentle canal murmurs through stone channels, guiding life-giving water to each level. The sound is a quiet lullaby, weaving through reeds that whisper against weathered slabs. Farmhands steady themselves on wooden stakes, their fingers stained pale yellow from maize pollen. They raise woven baskets, heavy with harvest, to Pachacuti's gaze. He nods with calm authority, noting the sheen of llama fat used to waterproof troughs and the careful binding of potato bundles with fragrant eucalyptus twigs. At midday, he enters a great kolka, an imperial storehouse, built with thick walls of adobe and stone. Inside, sunlight filters through narrow vents, painting shafts of gold across rows of ceramic jars and woven sacks. Each vessel holds a promise of sustenance. Roasted potatoes crisp beneath a crunchy skin, quinoa piled like tiny pearls, jars of vibrant shisha sweetened with purple corn, the hushed hush of pottery rubbing against wood, the soft rustle of cloth wrappings becomes a meditation in abundance. Overseeing the kolka are scribes whose knotted quippas hang like quiet sculptures. As Pachacuti examines their patterns, he senses the weight of his reforms, mandatory meta-service, balanced by the certainty of provisions and the warmth of chicha shared at dusk. He watches a laborer break bread from state-run fields, its crust faintly smoky, its crumb yielding and warm. With each mouthful, the rhythm of empire pulses through the common folk, anchored by the steady promise of grain and water. Before he departs, Pachacuti pours a small cup of chicha for himself, its aroma of fermented maize rising like incense. He lifts it to his lips and tastes the land's bounty, the labor of distant valleys, the careful hands of harvesters, the silent blessing of mountain spirits. In this gentle moment he feels the harmony of his reforms take root, binding road and field, ruler and people, in a shared breath of calm prosperity. As the sun's first rays gild the summit of Machu Picchu, the stone platforms of Machu Picchu emerge in a soft, golden haze. From this vantage, two visions of the site's purpose drift like morning mist. One sees a secluded royal retreat, a secret haven carved from living rock for emperors to escape the world below. In this vision, terraces serve as cultivated gardens where fresh herbs and flowers perfumed private courtyards. Fountains bubble in shaded niches, their water tracing carved channels with a gentle, playful murmur. The emperor and his inner circle might recline on woolen cushions, sipping foaming chicha beneath perforated walls that framed distant glaciers. Here, in perfect stillness, they could wander from temple to temple, resting in alcoves that opened to sweeping panoramas, each view a silent reminder of imperial dominion and mountain worship. Across the narrow ridge, another interpretation unfolds. Machu Picchu as a celestial observatory, a grand stage for reading the heavens. In this scenario, each stone block and trapezoidal doorway aligns with precision-intended sightlines. On the June solstice, the sun's zares slip through a carved niche to strike the Intihuatana stone at an exact angle, shadow and light entwining in a silent ritual. That moment binds earth and sky, offering priests a living calendar and affirming the emperor's role as intermediary with the sun god. At dusk, constellations once thought lost reappear overhead, reflected in shallow pools carved into granite. Spectators might gather in terraced amphitheaters, their breaths hushed and synchronized as priests pointed to Ursa Major or the Pleiades, their voices a gentle chant that rode the cool night breeze. Walking among these two realities, you feel an almost imperceptible shift in the air. In quiet courtyards, the stones seem to pulse with dual purpose, both nurturing sanctuary and cosmic marker. Moss-softened steps lead from private chambers to semicircular walls believed to mark solstitial alignments. Doorways shaped like trapezoids frame rising mists at dawn, each frame a telescope without lens. Listen closely, and you might hear the whisper of ancient guides describing how one aperture frames a fleeting shaft of light. Another captures the curve of the Milky Way overhead. Theories diverge, yet none dispel the hush that blankets the ruins. Scholars debate seals found in abandoned storehouses, arguing whether they held offerings for royal banquets or ritual obsidian blades for skyward ceremonies. Fragments of painted plaster hint at vibrant murals, perhaps, scenes of courtly leisure, or star charts mapping the heavens above. Every chipped corner and weathered edge invites speculation, a gentle puzzle that refuses to rush to a single answer. Here the boundary between human aspiration and nature's vastness dissolves. Whether you imagine Machu Picchu as an intimate refuge or an astronomical stage, its stones convey both calm and wonder. In the still morning light, allow the echoes of these theories to mingle in your mind, drifting like clouds around mountain peaks. Let your breath slow as you contemplate this silent debate, feeling each inhalation align you with seasons past, and each exhalation release you into the soft mystery that shrouds these ancient walls. Early in the morning, a pale hush settles over the broad plaza at Ollantaytambo. Fog drapes stone pillars and terraced walls in gauzy veils, softening every edge. Lanterns hung on slender poles hold gentle pools of light, illuminating woven banners that ripple in the still air. The scent of roasted maize drifts upward, mingling with the faint sweetness of coca leaves laid in neat piles along carved benches. You step onto smooth flagstones, the cool surface pressing gently into your sandals as you inhale the hush before celebration. As the sun ascends, low tables appear beneath reed canopies. Heaped platters carry guinea pig roasted to a crisp hue, its aroma nutty and warm, alongside bowls of squash soup fragrant with cilantro. Dried fruits, prickly pear, lucuma, and figs gleam like polished gems, their sweetness balanced by the earthy tang of chili-laced sauces. Attendants move with deliberate calm, pouring thick chicha from carved gourds in slow arcs that shimmer in morning light. Conversation remains hushed, voices soft as they pass morsels and lift cups in gentle toasts to gods and ancestors. A solemn procession winds around the plaza's perimeter. Chosen youths stride between lines of elders, each clad in finely woven tunics embroidered with sunbursts and mountain motifs. They bear small clay figures in cupped hands, offerings of maize and llamas sculpted with precise care. Drums rest on woven mats, their skins taut and dark. When the signal comes, a single stroke resonates like a distant heartbeat. The plaza tilts toward silence as the figures are placed at the temple steps, each one a whispered prayer for the empire's fortune. Moments later, the air softens further as attendants guide two young men forward. Their foreheads are brushed with maize paste, and their wrists bound by cords dyed red with cochineal. They kneel before the high priest, who raises a carved knife in a slow, deliberate arc. In the hush that follows, the blade glints in the sunshine, then arcs downward with serene finality. A single drop of crimson beads the stone altar, and attendants catch the flow with leaves of banana. The youth's life becomes offering, their spirit released like a breath into mountain air, and the crowd bows in respectful stillness. As midday light warms the plaza, festive contests begin. Noblemen and chiefs line up for a gentle foot race along a cushioned earth track. Their bare feet press into soft loam with measured strides, dust rising in thin clouds that drift like incense. Others compete in sling throwing, stones arching through air in parabolic grace before landing with muted thuds. Even the soft call of a long-range throw carries a tension of focus each competitor, a calm portrait of controlled power, their breaths slow and deliberate. When the sun dips low, tables are cleared, and lanterns glow amber against cooling stones. The scents of cooking smoke and trampled grass linger, as does the resonant echo of felicitous laughter and whispered prayers. The plaza, now hushed again, feels almost sacred. You trace a finger along a carved bench, feeling its smooth curve, and inhale the lingering warmth of celebration. In this gentle fading light, the festival's memory settles like a soft shawl across the heart, carrying you onward along the silent roads of empire. Night drapes the high plateau in deep indigo, and the air cools with sudden sharpness. Faint stars prick the sky, their distant light chiseling silhouettes of distant peaks. Caravans of laborers pause on a broad ledge where the wind has carved shallow hollows into the earth. They set down their loads with soft thuds, the limestone blocks resting in rows like silent sleepers. A hush spreads as each person finds a spot against the cold stone, pressing their back to its hard warmth. Lanterns of gourd glow with timid flickers, casting dancing shadows that tremble against the mountain's face. The scent of burning llama fat curls up in slender wisps, mingling with the resinous breath of nearby cedar stubs. Hands wrap around steaming gourds of tepid water, inhaling its faint smokiness. Each sip settles like a gentle balm in a chest, still humming with exertion. Some carve small pits in the soil for fires, arranging flat stones in circles. Flames leap and falter, their crackling soft against the sigh of the wind. Overhead, constellations wheel slowly, their cool glow reflected in eyes heavy with fatigue. A few workers hum lullabies from distant valleys, tunes that rise and fall like drifting breezes. Their voices are hushed, a gentle counterpoint to the rhythmic lull of night. Blankets of woven wool lie spread on the cold ground. Fingers smooth their edges, nestling toes beneath thick folds. The rough texture of alpaca fibers scratches faintly against skin, but it is a comfort, a soft barrier between flesh and rock. Close by, a guide stirs a small pouch of coca leaves, offering handfuls to weary comrades. The bitter warmth fills each mouth and mellows aches in ankles and spines. Sleep arrives in moments, drifting through the group like a silent wave. Some curl into tight bundles, knees drawn to chest, breath slowing to match the mountain's own pulse. Others linger awake, gazing into the dark expanse, tracing the curve of the Milky Way as it sweeps above. Each heartbeat feels tethered to the earth, each breath a quiet pact with the road they will greet at dawn. When a sudden breeze sweeps across the ledge, it carries a whisper of far valleys, pine forests burning in morning light, distant rivers murmuring beneath sunlit skies. In that moment, even the hardest labor fades, replaced by a gentle promise of waking renewal. Rest comes as a sacred offering, the body surrendered to the cold stones, the wind, and the watchful heavens. Before the first glow of dawn, a soft murmur ripples through the camp, feet shifting, blankets rustling, the world preparing to stir once more. The laborers rise, shoulders easing into straps, hands brushing sleep from tired eyes. The lanterns flicker low, then go dark. A shared breath passes among them, the hush of night giving way to the steady call of the road. And with that, they step forward into the shadowed trail, one silent stride at a time. In the quiet hush of dawn, Pachacuti steps into the Temple of the Sun, its interior lit by a single shaft of golden light that filters through a trapezoidal window. Cool stone walls press gently against his fingertips as he moves toward a polished niche holding a disk of beaten gold. The metal surface glows with a soft warmth, as though capturing the sun's first rays and breathing them back in gentle sighs. He pauses, inhaling the scented smoke of braziers filled with cedar and pumice, each curl of gray drifting upward like a whispered prayer. Nearby, scribes untangle knotted quipus in hushed reverence. Each strand of cotton and camelid fiber carries a story of fields tilled, of laborers marched, of grain stored for distant winters. Pachacuti listens to the faint click of knots slipping through practiced fingers, as if the knots themselves speak in soft Morse code of seasons past and seasons yet to come. In this steady rhythm, he sees the promise of order woven into the empire's very bones. At midday, he walks between rows of state-run farms laid out in neat terraces. Under the sun's gentle glare, workers sowed quinoa and barley in perfect symmetry. Pachacuti tastes a spoonful of boiled corn, its sweetness cushioned by a whisper of salt, and feels the land's bounty settle like a benediction in his chest. The mandatory Midas service, once a heavy burden, now feels like the pulse of shared purpose, each man and woman contributing to a living tapestry that stretches from Cusco to the furthest ridge. In the evening glow, he oversees the carving of new tambos along the great road. Each hostile stones are smoothed with patient hands, their walls shaped to cradle weary travelers. Lanterns of gourd hang from cedar beams, ready to glow with llama fat oil come nightfall. Pachacuti inspects woven blankets dyed in imperial indigo and dyed cochineal, feeling the softness of alpaca fleece beneath his palms. In these simple comforts, he envisions a network of solace that binds ruler to subject, valley to plateau. When the stars emerge, he returns to the Temple of the Sun to mark the solstice. The disk of gold flickers in torchlight, casting elongated shadows that dance like ancient guardians across the floor. Pachacuti traces constellations on a low bench, fingertips brushing stone as though coaxing the heavens into mute song. Each alignment aligns the living empire with cosmic order, reaffirming his role as earth-shaker and sun's intermediary. Before rest, he summons attendants to share a final cup of chicha mixed with purple corn. Its texture is velvet on the tongue, its warmth spreading through chilled limbs like a gentle tide. Scribes record the day's measurements on new quipus, their nodding quiet as snowfall. Pachacuti listens to that soft cadence, closing his eyes as he imagines the empire's wheels turning in harmonious unison. As night deepens, the golden disk returns to its niche, and the temple falls into silence save for the distant murmur of the Urubamba River. Pachacuti stands alone in the dim, feeling the cool stone underfoot and the steady beating of his own heart. In that stillness he senses the empire stretching outward in roads and terraces, in temples and tambos all bound by the gentle touch of his reforms and the quiet certainty of the sun as eternal journey. A soft, sustained whir drifts through the dawn air as a small drone rises above mossy terraces. Its propellers stir the mist, sending pale droplets drifting like silent rain. Beneath the device's steady hum, the stones of Machu Picchu lie muted in half-light, each block cradled by lichen and fern. The drone's camera eye adjusts its focus, tracing the curve of an old stairway half hidden by verdant growth. From its belly, laser pulses ripple in pale green arcs, each beam slicing through leaves and soil. The air holds a faint ozone tang, cool and metallic against the skin. As the LiDAR sweeps methodically, it sketches a lattice of points in the air-tiny sparks of data that map buried walls and collapsed structures. The mountains listen in silence, their ancient forms mirrored by the emerging digital contours. In quiet intervals, the drone drifts to a higher thermals, pivoting on invisible currents. Below, terraces long forgotten reveal their lines. Narrow paths linking distant tambos, irrigation channels winding through thickets, square foundations where storehouses once stood. Each hidden trace appears first as a tremor in the LiDAR point cloud, then sharpens into discernible form, as if the earth itself exhales its secrets. The pilot's voice crackles through a headset, low and unhurried, guiding each pass. A soft click echoes as new data logs to a handheld device, and for a moment the world holds its breath. In those seconds, the delicate glow of the screen reflects on stone, overlaying modern light upon ancient rock. The colors shift from emerald to sapphire as algorithms assign height to every cluster of points, building a spectral replica of the site. Back on the terraces, archaeologists settle beneath cedar awnings, their fingers brushing over tablets that unfold ghostly blueprints. They trace the contours of an unseen palace, a hidden road that coils through the forest, a cluster of circular platforms once lost to time. Each discovery arrives without fanfare, a gentle surprise, as if the mountain offers a whispered gift. As midday sun filters through shifting clouds, the drone returns to land on a flat stone platform. Its blades slow to a quiet rest, and the LiDAR pulses fade into memory. Researchers gather around, sharing soft smiles as they load the final segments of data. The stone beneath their feet seems to hum in response, warmed by both sun and revelation. In the cooling afternoon, the point cloud models float on screens, ghostly ribbons of light that wrap around Machu Picchu's living rock. You might lean close, tracing the faint lines of an ancient highway buried beneath ferns, or the foundation of a tiny shrine beyond sight. Each digital trace feels like a breath drawn from the earth, fragile and luminous. As dusk descends, the drone's hum is replaced by the mountain's own quiet chorus. Wind through cedars, the distant trickle of hidden springs, the hush of shadows lengthening across terraces. In that gentle convergence of past and present, you sense the legacy of vanished engineers revealed not by force, but by the soft glow of modern vision, illuminating their silent handiwork, one delicate pulse at a time. When first light drapes the courtyard in pale gold, A small caravan of provincial lords arrives at a royal tamboo perched above a winding gorge. Their footsteps are soft on the flagstones, aided by attendants unfurling carpets of woven alpaca beneath every sandal. The scent of sandalwood incense drifts from bronze censers, weaving through the hush of carved niches lined with lacquered gourds. Each guest is greeted with a low bow and guided toward cushioned platforms set against polished walls, where blankets dyed in imperial crimson await like silent thrones. In a side chamber, hostages from distant valleys move with quiet purpose. Young men and women, clothed in fresh tunics of white cotton, carry trays of roasted maize and sweet lucuma to the honored visitors. Their faces are calm, practiced in the art of service, but their eyes hold a distant look, ears attuned for whispered commands, hearts tethered to home. They speak the lingua of Cusco with careful precision, repeating phrases taught in soft lessons beneath reed awnings. Each word is a thread binding them to this palace of stone and power. The lords settle around low tables heaped with choco beans glazed in honey, bowls of bright quinoa salad, and platters of tender kai. Attendants pour chicha from wide-necked gourds, the liquid catching sunlight like liquid amber. There is no clamor of celebration, only the soft clink of clay cups and whispered counsels, carried out in measured tones. The lords taste each dish with slow deliberation, nodding approval at the textures and spices chosen from far-flung provinces. Each mouthful is at once sustenance and ceremony. Beyond the main hall, an inner sanctuary holds the chamber of golden textiles. Here, chosen women once worked in hushed reverence. Now the provincial lords pause to admire folded mantles, threaded with gold and turquoise, their patterns shifting in torchlight. They lift a folded shawl, fingers tracing sunbursts woven over mountain motifs, feeling both the softness of alpaca fibers and the weight of imperial favor. In these robes lies power, an unspoken reminder of rank and the subtle bonds of loyalty that tie them to the Cepa Inca. As dusk softens into evening, torches are lit along the perimeter, and the tamboo's stones glow warm under their gentle flare. The lords recline on cushioned benches, reclining as servants drape fresh puka leaves at their feet. Each leaf carries a mild warmth, easing the mind into hushed introspection. Outside, the wind stirs bamboo blinds, carrying the faint murmur of the valley below, a lullaby of rippling water and distant bird calls. When silence deepens, the lords retreat to private chambers. Their beds of straw and wool are piled high, pillows scented with lavender and hueruro seeds. The walls, lined with tapestries, seem to breathe warmth into the narrow room. They lie back, allowing the day's labors and honors to unfurl like a gentle tapestry in their minds. Each whisper of weaving, each echo of chant, drifts through the corridors like a soft benediction. In the tender hush before sleep, the tamboo stands as a quiet sanctuary, a privilege far removed from the rugged toil of far-flung laborers. Here, on polished stone and cushioned lenience, the empire's drifting currents of power converge. Let the hush of this royal hostel settle upon you, its gentle embrace guiding you into rest as soft as the weaving of golden threads above your head. The sun sinks low behind the serrated peaks, casting long, rosy fingers of light across the ancient causeways. As daylight softens into dusk, the stones of the imperial roads hold on to warmth, releasing it in gentle waves that rise in sleepy ripples beneath your feet. In these silent ribbons of limestone and earth, You have walked alongside laborers whose steady breath shaped each step, whose hands coaxed slabs of rock into place high above drifting clouds. Feel their quiet resolve settle in your own heart, a testament to the human spirit, forged in thin air and tempered by mountain wind. We have wandered through the quiet chambers of Anta to witness the boy Kusi Yupankoit blossom into Pachacuti, the earth shaker who wove roads and reforms into the living tapestry of an empire. Imagine his cloak brushing dew-laden terraces, his gaze tracing the curves of canals guiding water to thirsty fields, his steady hand nodding quipus that spoke of harvests and conscripted service balanced by care and provisions. In his reforms you sense a gentle symmetry, roads built with rigor, yet farms tended with compassion, tambos crafted for rest as much as for passage. Above all, we lingered in the hush of Machu Picchu, where vanished engineers aligned stones with celestial grace, and modern LiDAR pulses unveil hidden foundations beneath emerald canopies. In the soft glow of dawn, trapezoidal windows frame rising mists, and the Intihuatana stone holds the sun's light like a petal in bloom. Each theory, retreat, or observatory unfolds without urgency, inviting your mind to drift between palace and sky, letting the mountain's whispers guide you through its dual mysteries. And finally, we stepped into the tranquility of royal tambos, where chosen women wove gold-dusted textiles by lantern light, and provincial lords reclined on reed platforms scented with cedar and lavender. Here, power rested folded like a blanket beneath your shoulders, each soft fiber a woven promise of privilege and obligation. The crackle of chicha poured from gourds, the hushed rustle of hostages' feet, the flicker of torchlight on polished walls, all converged into a serene sanctuary far removed from the high pass's rugged demands. Now, as evening's hush deepens and the first stars prickle the indigo sky, let the echoes of footfalls on moonlit stones and the murmur of wind through cedar branches lull you into stillness. Picture the roads stretching beyond the horizon, slipping into shadowed valleys and ascending to cloud-kissed summits, each step a gentle rhythm inviting rest. In the hush of history's embrace, breathe deeply and release the day's burdens like stones set free down a mountainside. Allow your mind to drift along these silent highways, carried on the soft exhalations of laborers, rulers, scholars, and artisans alike. Feel each inhalation fill you with ancient dust and modern wonder, with the fragrance of maize and the promise of woven gold. With each quiet pulse of breath, sink further into tranquility, guided by the empire's calm heartbeat, long after the torch flames gutter low. Sleep now finds you on these storied paths, a traveler at last at rest. May your dreams unfold like folded textiles, soft, patterned, and bound by the gentle hands of time. Let the weight of history cradle you in its arms, and awaken renewed beneath a dawn of quiet possibility.